Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
Good afternoon, I'm Cliff Hughes.
Good afternoon, Cliff.
Good afternoon, Ricardo.
How are you?
I'm alright.
Yeah. And good afternoon to our friends on YouTube. Hello to you if you're joining us on radio, and hi to you if you're joining us on the app. Alright, so the issue of dual citizenship for parliamentarians has again been brought to the fore. This in light of the revelation that opposition leader Mark Golding is a British citizen. The last time the matter was raised was in the aftermath of the September 2007 general elections.
Danville Walker had to resign as Director of Elections in 2008 after the PNP challenged him in court for being unqualified to sit as director because he was a dual Jamaican-American citizen. The PNP also went to court to have 5 MPs belonging to the JLP, starting with Daryl Vaz in West Portland, removed from office on the grounds that they were dual citizens at the time of their nomination and hence ineligible to stand for office.
Now, Section 42A of the country's constitution was at the center of the controversy at the time, and it says in relevant part, no person shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives who is, by virtue of his own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state.
One of the men who was at the center of the legal battles was Dabdoub. He joins us now. Good afternoon, Mr. Dabdoub.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm alive.
And well?
Hopefully.
Oh,
Thank you.
good. All right. A number of people are pointing to Section 40 in relation to the current debate and controversy. Provide some background and analysis of why, if there's any basis to Section 40 being relevant in this instant matter of the opposition leader.
Well, as far as the question of whether it's relevant to the opposition leader or not, that is a question that will have to be decided by the people of Jamaica or the courts. In relation to Section 40, you have to look at Section 39 first and foremost. Because Section 39 provides that any Commonwealth citizen can be, who is resident in Jamaica for 12 months or more, can be nominated to the House or be appointed to the Senate. However, I think you need to make a distinction between having dual citizenship and having dual allegiance. If you have dual allegiance, you ought not to be sitting in the House. The question that I understand is being raised now is whether or not being a Commonwealth citizen, that is, if you are a citizen of any of the countries in the Commonwealth, New Zealand, Canada, the United Kingdom, does that raise the question of whether you owe dual allegiance? And to understand, to my mind, what we need to understand is that the king is the king of England. The king is also the king of Jamaica. And he is the king of Canada and the king of Australia, because this is a notion that has been developed over the years by the British, that the kings are personages. And the question that you have to ask yourself, Parliament in England could very well abolish the monarchy. And if they abolish their monarchy, what would happen to us here in Jamaica when our section of the Constitution speaks to the king being head of state?
Mm-hmm.
And these are the problems that the way the Constitution is worded has caused us to now have to look to the courts for a proper interpretation of what the framers of the Constitution meant. Because to me, they could never have meant that England or Canada could not be a foreign power. Because a foreign power is any country that has a government who, when they pass their laws, the laws do not apply to us. So the laws would be foreign to us. And to my mind, I am of the view, although I must concede that it needs to be given judicial decision on the question, that a Commonwealth citizen, just merely being a Commonwealth citizen, does not allow you to have dual allegiance. And that, I don't know if you're following what I'm saying, Cliff.
Yes, yes.
So the question really is dual allegiance. And
how do we define allegiance or dual allegiance?
well, I think our courts have already indicated that if you have a passport or you acquire a passport of a foreign power, then you owe allegiance to that foreign power.
And that passport would be covered by the section that says by virtue of his own act. So you sought that symbol of allegiance.
That is so. And the Australian case is on the point to go a little further. What they say is that if you have citizenship, you don't even need a passport. If you have failed to act in renouncing that citizenship, you are deemed to have acknowledged it. So these are questions that the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and probably the Privy Council itself will have to address at some stage in terms of our Constitution. Because to me, if what people are saying that once you're a Commonwealth citizen, you are exempt from owing dual allegiance, that would mean that our framers involved themselves in a scam, because we would not have been truly independent, would we?
And Mr. Dabdoub, help us understand, because Section 39 says it is subject to the provisions of Section 40.
Exactly.
Section 39 deals with qualification for membership, Section 40 with disqualification.
That's right.
And therefore you're saying that it doesn't stop at simply being a Commonwealth citizen of the age of 21 years or upwards, but you must read that being subject to the provision that says, by virtue of his own act, is under an acknowledgement or allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state.
That's right.
And you're saying because the United Kingdom or any other Commonwealth country has a separate government and makes laws that do not apply to Jamaica, then in your estimation, those countries would constitute foreign powers or states.
Yes. That they're perfectly right.
We have with us Abe Dabdoub, attorney at law, seeking to make sense of Section 40 of the Jamaican Constitution read in relation to Section 39. Mr. Dabdoub, I want to take you back to the Court of Appeal ruling in Dabdoub v. Vaz. And paragraph 35, the former president of the Court of Appeal, Seymour Panton, wrote in part, if they choose, meaning a Jamaican, a distant, autocratic, unfriendly Commonwealth country for citizenship status, they can still serve in the House of Representatives. If, however, they choose to acquire such status In the United States of America, their friendly and accommodating neighbor to the north, they are disqualified. That may seem an oddity given the fact that many Jamaicans seek United States citizenship and are more likely to be accommodating in that country compared with the level of accommodation they would receive in many Commonwealth countries. However, that is the Constitution. Does it not appear here that the former President of the Court of Appeal took for granted that Commonwealth citizens automatically have a right, no matter which Commonwealth country they choose, to sit in the House of Representatives?
You are perfectly correct. He took it for granted. It's not obiter dictum.
And just for the benefit of our listeners, what is obiter dictum?
It is not a rationale of the case that was before him.
So in other words, a sort of throwaway comment.
Yes, and quite frankly, Mr. Panton was very, everybody knows he has always been a person who would have throwaway comments as he goes through his judgments. But I don't necessarily agree with him. But it shows you that, in my opinion, the question of Commonwealth citizens not being subject to their dual allegiance needs to be decided on by the courts.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, Cliff, if you look at the Immigration Restriction Commonwealth Citizens Act, Commonwealth citizens can't just come here as they wish, They need permission. So we certainly, our parliament treats them differently.
Mm-hmm. Going back to something you said before the break, Mr. Dabdoub, you suggested that even if you were to inherit, yes, citizenship of a foreign power, and you do not renounce it, yes?
Yes.
That would constitute dual allegiance? Is that correct?
That is what the case of Sykes versus Cleary and Sue versus Hill in Australia has said.
By not renouncing?
That by not renouncing.
Oh.
Because the failure to do something is an act in itself.
And Mr. Dabdoub, let me just be clear. Is that by virtue of the section, the part that says under any acknowledgement?
Yes.
So in other words, the fact that you know.
It's not by any acknowledgement, it's under any acknowledgement. So if you are aware that you are a citizen of a foreign country or a Commonwealth country, and you are so aware and you have not renounced it in order to not nominate, then to my mind, you are guilty of being under the acknowledgement of a foreign power.
Have you discussed this view with your colleagues, your senior colleagues at the bar?
Some of them.
And what is the conclusion?
I must tell you that some of them agree, and one or two who are in the minority, I must say, do not agree. And the unfortunate thing is that some of us tend to look at the question of this law and how it applies in a political sense as to who it will apply to. And quite frankly, I don't think we should be looking at it from the point of view, or that point of view. We should be concerned with the Constitution and void of any particular feelings we have about whether it's right or wrong. And if it needs to be changed, we need to change it. But we can't interpret it the way we would like to interpret it. It would need to be interpreted according to law.
So in that vein, if you were to advise the JLP, which is now making a big issue of this, would it be prudent, in your opinion, for them to take it to the court?
I would not seek to advise any political party anymore. If I am an attorney, I practice law, I no longer practice politics. So I would not want to give anybody any political advice.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
On the facts that are now public and all you have heard, do you think, based on sections 39 and 40, Mr. Golding has a legitimate legal question to answer?
I believe that the whole question, not only of Mr. Golding, but anybody else who sits in the House, who has Commonwealth citizenship or Commonwealth passports, need to have their legal position determined by a court of law. Let me put it that way. We need to know that what our Constitution says, because it's my view, as I said before, if the interpretation that some are putting on it, that a Commonwealth citizen is exempt, then really the idea of independence has not really truly happened to us yet. If we have to interpret it that Commonwealth citizens are to be treated special, then we are not really independent.
So, in the case of Mr. Golding says, listen, he's born and bred in Jamaica. Yes, he inherited a British passport and citizenship by descent. By descent. Would that still, given those set of circumstances, disqualify him under 40? In your opinion?
Does he have a passport? Because, I don't know. Does Mr. Golding have a passport?
As in a British passport?
Yes.
What if he does?
Well, and if he has it since he has become an adult and he has renewed it, then I would think it applies to him too.
If he has renewed it?
Yes, but that is a question really for the people of Jamaica to decide too,
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to continue to hold on to it without renouncing, then it's a question that for the electorate to decide whether they accept or not.
Mm-hmm. I'm being reminded that he told TVJ that he has a passport that expires this year. Mm-hmm.
Well, if he has admitted that and he wants to keep it, then it is up to the people to make a decision if there's an election before there is a judicial decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Abe Dabdoub, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Abe Dabdoub.
Okay.
Abe Dabdoub was the man who, you could say, started this legal saga.
I went back and I read
regarding dual citizenship.
I read
when he challenged Vaz.
I went back and I read the ruling of the former Chief Justice Zelia McCalla, who ruled in the first instance, and then I went and I read the Court of Appeal ruling on the matter. Yeah, and it's interesting, and it gets me a little bit excited, I have to say, it's because it's fascinating to try to make sense of it. To parse the words by virtue of his own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance. What do those words mean? And I think he's right that it is something for the courts to decide and to pronounce on.
And coming out of this, it was last week we were told that the Labour Party is considering legal action, whether it should pursue this legal in the courts.
Yes.
I think what we heard from Dabdoub this afternoon will strengthen those who are of that view.
Yes. Yes. I can see how a reasonable person could read these two sections, 39 and 40, and wonder out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a matter for the courts to settle. And I believe Mr. Vaz, Daryl Vaz, he had an article in both the Sunday Gleaner and the Sunday Observer. I think it was yesterday.
Yes.
And he ended that article with a sort of throwaway sentence.
Mm-hmm.
If that time for a legal challenge should
Yes.
come.
Yes.
Yes.
This is fascinating as, an onlooker in terms of the law. It is fascinating to hear the intricacies and the arguments. Yeah? And what is clear, what is not so fascinating, is that a lot of people, including myself, have a big problem with our alternative prime minister, yes, having citizenship of a foreign power. It is as simple as that for me. Yeah, I want, like all our previous prime ministers, my prime minister to have no such doubt or conflict surrounding them.
Yes.
There is no doubt about his loyalty and allegiance to us. Yes?
It's a principled matter.
The principle.
Yeah.
He must be in the same boat like all of we. We have no way in can run go.
We should tell the listeners that we did try to get comment from the People's National Party about the legal issues. We were told that they were having a shadow cabinet meeting, and so they weren't able to.
They want to shut this down, I can tell you. This is very, very difficult for them.
A spot of bother.
A spot of bother.